Yo.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Hacking Health Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Canning, with Dave Kennedy.
Yo. Welcome back to the show. What is up, my dude? How are you?
Good. I'm very excited today. Today's a monumental day for me. I broke another treadmill at Orange Theory, so it's a good day when you're breaking equipment. The instructor came up to me and she's like, "Yep, there goes another one." She's like, "I don't think it likes the 12 at 15% inclines very much." And I'm like, "Yeah, sorry about that. I really wasn't trying to break it this time." So she's like, "But this time." So it was funny. Erin's sitting next to me, just shaking her head. but
I can't imagine
the funny thing was,
I can't imagine there's many people use the treadmill at full incline and full speed.
no, it's like maxed out. Like, they have these new machines though, so I'm trying to break them so we get the new machines, but I'm not really trying to break them. But Orange Theory has these new machines that go up to 15 miles an hour and 15% incline, and that's 3 miles an hour is a big difference when it comes to running. And so, but I definitely want to do it. I want to see if I can get like a 4-minute mile, or I don't know what 15 miles an hour at a pace is. I'd have to calculate that, but I know 12 miles an hour is a 5-minute mile, which I've done many times. It sucks, but I've done it. I feel like death the rest of the day, but it was funny because when I was doing it, it was you have to basically complete a mile in a certain amount of time, and so I did a full send on it, and it was funny because right when I hit the 1 mile, like literally 1.00, and I hit it, and I was about ready to stop, the whole thing shit and died. It was like, all right, I'm going to hold on for dear life until you get your goal. And then I'm going to shit, and then I'm going to crap out. So it was a good day today, Orange Series. So yeah.
Exactly 4 minutes. If you run
4 minutes, okay.
If you run at 15,
I feel like I can do 15 miles an hour for 4 minutes. 4 minutes is not a long time.
That's fast.
That is fast. Can you imagine 42 years old doing a 4-minute mile? That'd be crazy.
We definitely have to recreate the fastest fuck boy gif. Fastest fuck boy.
We'll see.
You've now broken 5 pieces of equipment in Orange Theory. I'm surprised they haven't banned you.
I know. Well, I'm going to start to like offer up like, hey, I've broken like two rowers and 3 treads, or is it 3 rowers and 2 treads? One of those. And I'm literally, I'll pay for the repair. Like, I'm sorry, like, but I feel like the equipment should be able to handle somebody full sending it, right? Like that should be a thing. Yeah. So if you make it, don't make it so it can't be like maxed out capacity.
Yeah, it would be like having a piece of weight equipment that it couldn't lift the full stack without breaking. What the fuck's the point in having it then?
What'd you pay for that for then? It's like, come on. Like if they can't handle it, then why put 12 miles an hour, 50% incline? Like, I mean, I'm sure they assume no one's going to do that, but obviously someone is doing that. So
psycho mode.
Yeah, psycho mode. They should be a button. It's like, I'm gonna die mode. Here we go. Let's go.
You have to sign a waiver to get it. To sign on the treadmill to get it.
Yeah. How you doing, Ben?
Doing good, dude. Things are good on this side. Actually, the way I often rebuild systems for growth in terms of coaching and the capacity of everything, and then just push the limits until I break it, and then rebuild the systems. I'm at the process of rebuilding the system again, so it's just a lot of building out management stuff so that whenever we have the next intake of clients, that we have the capacity to navigate it. And it's a lot of admin work, but sort of future me will be grateful for me now doing the stuff. Just getting that done. Obviously the new check-in sheet and other bits and pieces, and sort of automating a lot of the management side of things, which sounds super boring, but it's exciting for the prospect of the future of the growth within it. So yeah, things are good.
Awesome. Well, I know we're neck deep into getting stuff ready for the new launch. I just sent 1,000 cards out to Vegas for WrestleMania for DDP, and 2 tubs of the protein out to him. So it's really exciting that he's out there promoting hacking your health at WrestleMania. I was like, what the hell? This is crazy. This is awesome. Like what the heck?
I had the call today. So a local guy, NI Supplements, shout out to NI Supplements. I've got my supplements there for about 10 years. But I had a call with a guy, Pete, today, and I was just sort of giving him the debrief. I'd spoken to him before, and then I sort of updated him, and he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I don't like, I mean what I say, but I don't really know how I find myself in this situation. But like, this is where we're at and this is what's happening. He's like, what a fucking random story. And I'm like, yes, tell me about it every time, regardless of the DDP introduction. Like, it's a fucking random story anyway, but introducing us to a whole new level of like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I don't know.
We're just going with it. Let's go with it.
Yes, we are. But no, it's cool. And I mean, like, obviously WrestleMania, growing up as a kid and wrestling when I was a kid, it's cool to just hear those names mentioned and sort of be about it. So I'm excited to see how that goes. And I'm looking forward to the launch of everything too.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we'll kick right into our stuff today, which I think is an important one. And I'll tell you a little story that happened yesterday. So I was going down to do legs day, i.e. push, but chest day,
upper body legs.
Yeah, upper body legs. And you know, I wasn't really feeling it. You know, it was in the afternoon. I had a long day. I had teaching some kids from Copley High School on cybersecurity in the morning, and then I had some international folks come in for Trusted Sec for the afternoon. And it was just one of those days where I was like, go, and then I had to go to Airsoft, obviously, in the evening. So I had to fit my lift in, and I'm like, man, it's just so busy, but I got to get my lift in. It's legs day. It's the most important day. And so I do like chest day. I will say chest may become as of yesterday, maybe became my favorite day. But I went downstairs and I wasn't really feeling it. And right before I lifted, I kind of had like this epiphany, and I was just like, why am I dragging ass? Like, this is awesome. Like, I love working out. Like, I really do. And when I get done with it, it's like the greatest feeling ever. But it's like when you first start off, you're like, do I really even want to do this? Right? You're going to do it, but like, do you even really want to do this? And I just had that one thought of like, no, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is going to be an awesome lift. And honestly, it was the best lift I've had in 6 months. Just by that one thought. Like, it literally changed my entire perspective of that entire lift, and I murdered that lift. And Dom came over, one of my buddies who's a lifter, and I was already kind of like halfway through my lift. And man, I had like the biggest pump ever. I looked like completely. He walks in. I didn't have to say anything. He walks in. He's like, dude, what the hell? That looks awesome. I'm like, thanks, man. Like, I noticed it too. Like, you're not, like, I noticed it, but I didn't know if you were going to notice it. Like, this is great. Like, this is why I lift. Like, this is exactly why I lift right here. So I get compliments from other dudes. So, you know, like, and so it turned out to be an awesome lift. I PR'd. You know, I hit six plates on incline Smith machine press. And what I really like, honestly, like, I know people give Smith machine shit. It's one of my favorite exercises, to be perfectly honest with you. I've had zero shoulder problems or pain or even like soreness with it. So, you know, I'm sticking with that. But it was a phenomenal lift. I murdered it. And then I just kept going. I was just like, you know, I'm just going to keep going. Like, I don't need to leave right now. And then I eventually had to leave for Airsoft. And I will say I did drag ass at Airsoft yesterday because I put all my energy out on the lift itself. So I wasn't competing very well yesterday. But all in all, like, it's amazing what just a little thought in your head can do to change motivation. So today's topic is really on mindset and things that you can do to challenge yourself to make yourself better. And it's, you know, we've always talked about, you know, the pillars before here, you know, on the podcast, but I think it's important to revisit this one specific topic and the other pillars, because you learn things new every time. You learn things that work with you and don't work. And one thing that might work for me might not work for you. But these are things that I think are super important because at the end of the day, consistency is number one, in my opinion, on the results that you want to get. But to get that consistency, you have to have the discipline to be able to push yourself through things when you don't want to do them. And your body will fight you on that. Your mind will fight you on that day in and day out. And, you know, life gets at you, things like that. But you have to be able to spend time for yourself to get the results that you want for yourself, to feel good about yourself.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, this is you and I being in line again. I mentioned last week that I did a presentation for a Google thing, Wellness Wednesday, and I sort of just delivered on We Hack Health and what it is and the pillars. And I thought potentially would be a good time for us to revisit it because, I mean, usually we do it at the start of every year, but we definitely didn't do it this year. So I think it's a good, timely reminder of the importance. And I sort of expanded on it whenever we were going through the thing with Google. But I think the foundational piece of all of this is mindset. Like, it doesn't matter about the training program. It doesn't matter about the nutrition piece. It doesn't matter what gym you train on. It doesn't matter anything else. If you're not in the right headspace to enter into this lifestyle transformation or whatever it is that you want to call it, like, you will not succeed in it. And I'm not saying it's just a case of one day you're like, right, I have the mindset. It's something that evolves over time and something that even to this day continues to need work. Like, I'm 10, 11 years into lifting and I still have to work on the mindset of actually getting down to do the work in the gym. It's easy to get distracted with life, with work, with other bits and pieces, with family stuff and whatever else going on. It's easy to neglect the thing. And I think for me, if I look at it specifically around the gym, number one, there's never been a time I went into a workout and regretted doing the workout. Like 100 times out of 100, I always feel better after it. Secondly, if you think about it in terms of I get to do this versus I have to do this, like, not everybody on the planet gets to work out. Not everybody can. So it's a privilege for us to be able to do it, especially being able to have a nice gym, being in your own space, like equipment that you want, like having the time to actually go and do it. So thinking about it and framing it that way definitely helps in terms of the days that I'm not looking forward to it, or I'm sort of like procrastinating on getting the lift in. But I think whenever it comes to mindset, we sort of break it down into 3 further sections, and we'll delve a little bit into this. And this is, I haven't actually told Dave this, so we'll see how we go with this. For me, mindset, we break it down into number 1, mental resilience. Number 2, having a growth mindset. And number 3, focus and mindfulness. For me, if we take each at a time, mental resilience is the discipline piece. I don't think you and I need to get into the discipline versus consistency, which is better conversation. I think we can just both agree that they go hand in hand.
Yes.
It's like you and I on the podcast, we can't have just one of us. Like, you can be discipline, I can be consistency. You can be consistency, I can be discipline, whatever you want.
Yep.
But with that, the mental resilience, it at a foundational level for me, it's just keeping the promises that you make to yourself. And I think it's quite easy to let ourselves down. It's quite easy to just say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll put it off. But if you keep the promises you make to yourself in terms of going to the gym, for an example, you then have the narrative about yourself as someone who keeps those promises to yourself. So then the next thing that comes along, you know that you're going to do it because you said you have to do it. And that sort of carries on and filters through every aspect of your life. And I think that, to me, the gym, that's the main driver, the main thing that it has given me, is the understanding that regardless of my emotion, regardless of how I'm feeling, I will do the thing that I said I was going to do because I am that sort of person. And it takes away from that I'm going to the gym to lift some weights, to gain muscle, for whatever it might be. It's a promise that you kept to yourself because you know it will make you better. And if you continue to keep those promises specifically, it will filter into every other aspect of your life, and that will be the person that you become.
Yeah, and that forward vision, I think, of looking at, hey, if I do something consistent for a while, I will have results with that, right? And I think what I even struggle with this, like when I did this last surplus cycle, again, we're not going to use the word bulk. When I did this last surplus cycle, I let myself get to 250, and it was interesting because I was looking at pictures when I was really lean, and like, man, I feel like I'm smaller now than I am in that picture. When I was really lean, and am I actually progressing, or am I actually getting the results? But, while that was going in, 1, I know my weight has gone up. 2, I know my muscle mass has gone up because I have a scanner that does that, right? So I know that is not the case, but I know that if I stay consistent with what I'm doing, I'm moving up in volume, I'm doing the things that I've learned, to do in my training cycles of lifting weights, that I am going to get the progress that I'm looking at. And yesterday when I was lifting, I was like, okay, this is the biggest I've ever been. This is the strongest I've ever been. And this is the results that I've always wanted. And I even told Dom yesterday, I'm like, I'm at a point now where I'm very, very happy with where I'm at. Like, and that's a hard thing for me because I always, even when I'm lean, I still feel like I have like a little bit of excess skin. It's not a perfect 6-pack or whatever, like I'm always like judging myself and some of the flaws that I have, knowing that there's a stat that I saw that was really crazy. For people that have 6-packs in the age of 35 and over is 1 in 25,000. To put that in perspective, that's only 340 people in New York City that have a 6-pack.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
That's a crazy stat.
Yep.
So, you look at a fitness influencer or a model or a bodybuilder, they're in the 0.0000000001% of the population. And so, unless you're gonna like absolutely do a bunch of stuff, and just be so disciplined on everything that you eat, everything you do, your workout regimen, you have to set the expectations of what you're really trying to accomplish. And I think everybody's goals are different, right? You have folks that are like, hey, I just want to lean out a bit. I have a conversation with someone and I'm not going to mention their name because I haven't asked them if I can talk about them publicly, but really well-known cybersecurity person messages me all the time, just asking about, hey, I've been able to shed the weight, but I'm really having trouble putting on muscle mass. And this was about 6 months ago. And I explained to him, I'm like, hey, you're going to need to start eating a lot of food. And you're going to have to start, lifting some more heavier weights and some more volume. And he's like, okay, well, explain to me why. And, I explained to him, like, listen, the most ideal situation for you to build muscle is in a slight surplus. You have all the nutrients that your body needs to grow the muscle. Your body isn't taking away from one thing or the other at this point. And I said, listen, you're going to gain a little bit of body fat, so just be expectant. And I asked him, I'm like, are you comfortable with losing weight? He's like, no, actually, I feel like I can lose weight anytime. Like the weight loss stuff for me now is really easy. Now that I understand all this, I'm like, okay, so you're comfortable with losing weight. You know that you can lose weight if you need to. So why don't you try eating a bit and, and send me your workout regimen. Let's take a look at that and what we can do to tweak this a little bit. And this was 6 months ago, he messaged me the other day and he's like, dude, I put on so much muscle mass. This is ridiculous. He's like, this is awesome. He's like, I didn't know eating more food and lifting heavier weights was going to make me be able to gain muscle. I know that sounds simple, right? But, people are used to being in a deficit for so long. They hit these massive plateaus where they can't, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, my bench isn't going up. Like, I'm stuck at this bench level. I'm stuck at this. I'm stuck at this. I'm not progressing. Why is that? I'm like, well, you need to eat. And you need to be able to put on some mass. And, it's and that's his goals though, right? No, he wanted to lose the weight and he lost like 65 pounds, which is phenomenal, right? That was one of the things that was his goal, but that goal changed when he realized, hey, this weight loss thing, now that I have my eating under control, I understand calories, I understand that I need to get adequate protein, I'm good with this regimen. Now I need to change a little bit to do something a little bit differently to get the next desired result that I want to. And, it's interesting because, I think for me, for some reason, this past few months, I just haven't been loving lifting. I just haven't been loving it. Like before, I loved it. I loved it. I just loved it, right? And I feel like just the past few months, I just been, a lot of stressors at work. We brought in a new company that merged in with Trusted Sec. A lot of just things going on. Not anything bad, just a lot of things that we've been having to work with. Obviously, the supplement stuff and everything else, and just busy. So my mind has been focused on other things than lifting. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't been getting my lifting in. Been consistent, stayed disciplined with it, but I haven't loved it. And yesterday was one of those days where I was like, okay, I love this again. And today at Orange Theory, I loved it again. And so I think we go through these cycles, ebbs and flows in our lives. And I know you've gone through similar things before, where you're like, man, I just, like I'm not feeling this lifting routine or this program, or, I'm kind of, focused on, getting this next iteration of customers in or clients in, so we go through these like different things. But one thing if we stay consistent, we'll hit those goals. And even while I wasn't loving it, I was able to drop 30 pounds, and, still maintain my muscle mass and still maintain my strength to where I'm down to 223, and I'm hitting a PR on a bench press. And, it's that consistency that eventually gets you through those tough times that you're working through, but it's just a total mental barrier that you have to overcome with yourself, and you have to fight it. And it's interesting because like, I'll tell you, like when I was going through this, like weird, I'm not loving lifting phase, I was thinking to myself, what changed to where I don't feel the same way as I did before. And it's almost like a laziness thing, to be perfectly honest with you. At least in my case, it is. I was getting a little bit complacent and lazy with my mindset. I know that sounds weird, but like I was getting complacent and lazy with the things that I was doing all the time at such a high intensity that I just took it for granted.
Mhm.
And then I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to go through the flow and just go do things, as is. And then I started to slowly move to a different side where I'm like, I don't really feel like lifting today. I'm going to go lift, but whatever. Like, I'm not going to enjoy it that much, And that simple change in my mindset downstairs where I'm like, I get to fucking lift today. Like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be an awesome lift today. And it was the best lift I've had in 6 months. And, and so I need to focus on myself and getting my mind right for when I'm going to lift and when I get excited. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. So I did order shirt today, so I'm not going to lift today. But tomorrow, I'm really looking forward to back and biceps day. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I'm excited to get down to that gym and throw some weights around. Now, legs day, I'm still not excited about, but I'm still not excited about legs day, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm getting there. I'm getting back to it. I used to love legs day. Love legs day. I got to get back to loving legs day again. So,
okay, good luck. I think a lot. First of all, I'm going to say this from my own experience and working with clients. And I realize that there may be people listening to this being like, fuck you, what do you know? Or they may not think the same, and that's okay. But I think when you get an understanding of how fat loss works and you have built the habits and behaviors to allow yourself to progress, you get an understanding of what your body needs and how to fuel it, and get an understanding of like where your calories need to be set to lose weight. I think fat loss is easier than building muscle for me personally, and for the majority of the people that I work with. And not necessarily in terms of like the process, because essentially the process is the same. You're just managing calories on a different scale, and you just eat more calories, you eat less calories. From a mindset perspective, I think it's easier to go through a fat loss phase. And the reason that I say that is because you can't, I think if we think about it from a feedback loop or like the dopamine hit, you see progress on a regular basis, like whether it's every day, every other day, or every week. Like, you see the scale move and you see your body change, and it's a lot easier to stay in line with everything and stay in tune with everything because you can see that progress. You're like, oh, well, the thing that I'm doing is definitely working, so like I'm in. So like it's much easier. And actually, in my check-in yesterday, I said to James, I was like, look, I need to push this deficit a little bit more difficult, a little bit harder, because I'm not seeing the results that I want at the rate that I want. And I'm like, I can feel myself mentally checking out. And I've said this time before, like, I'm a person that likes to suffer in a deficit because I know I can, number one, do it, and number two, get the results to see my body change. Whenever it comes to moving into a surplus, number one, for a lot of people, it's an unknown territory. So if you spent 20 years of your life trying to lose weight, and now all of a sudden some random guy on the internet is trying to tell you to put on weight, and you're like, well, I don't really fucking know about this. Like, eat more food and then gain all the weight that I just lost. Because the rate that you can build muscle is much slower than the rate you can lose fat, and the results aren't as frequent or noticeable on a more regular basis, it's a lot more difficult to stay in line with it. And again, I've said this again, like, you shift your focus from looking at metrics in a fat loss phase to looking at lifts in a surplus, so that you can see the progress in the gym versus the progress physically. And I think it's safe to say, going through a surplus, you go through a period of where you actively look worse than you did before, and you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like,
That's 100% true.
I look worse. And then towards the end of it, you look and feel worse. And you're like, well, fuck, I'm 30 pounds heavier. What the fuck have I just done this for? So it definitely can be more challenging. But again, to have that athletic physique, to have that like person who looks like they actually train, you need to go through that surplus phase to actually build muscle. Like, you can lose weight and still look like you don't train. Whereas if the goal is to look athletic and look like you go to the gym, whether it's just big shoulders and big arms, like, you need to go through the period of building the muscle to have those things. So that's my 2 cents on that. In terms of what you said specifically around like nitpicking in yourself, again, I don't think this is something that goes away. Like, I think we will always be our own worst critic within that. But if you think back to you 3, 4, 5, 2 years ago, and you look at you now, like, there's no way, number one, you would have believed that would have been you, and number two, you would have fucking given anything to be in the shape that you're in now.
Yep.
So it's quite easy to forget like you got another fucking phone call every time we're in a
Yeah,
podcast.
sorry.
You're
I
getting a
forgot to
phone.
turn that off. I forgot to turn that off.
So yeah, it's quite easy to forget like where we have come from. And a book that Sean recommended to me called The Gap and the Gain, where we always focus on the gap of where we want to be versus the gain of where we have been. And I think like if we think back to you know 4 or 5, nearly 5 years ago, whenever we first had a conversation, like there's absolutely no way that you could believe that you'd be doing the things that you're doing now in terms of the gym, but also like look how you look. So it's often like we do it quite regularly. I still do it to this day where I'm like, okay, right, well, yeah, I like this bit and this bit, but also what about all these 10 other bits that I don't like? So we need to remind ourselves, and that 100% is a mindset thing of like, okay, right, remind ourselves of how far we've come and the progress that we have made. And again, if I think about myself, I actually was looking back at photos with Harper throughout the week of her whenever she was younger. And I was like, oh, I thought I was big then. I was like, if I look
Yeah.
at me now, like I was a lot smaller then than I am now. I'm like, it's not even something that I've sort of been paying attention to. So yeah, we need to remind ourselves of that as we go through that process as well. But I think looking at the how far you have come versus how far you feel you have to go, because that is always going to be a goalpost that moves. Do you mean we're going to go through the deficit phase, and you know I think the goal is June. Like you're going to get to that point and be like, yeah, I'm really lean and I'm very happy, but I feel small. And day to day, you'll feel smaller because your t-shirts feel different and whatever else. And like then you're going to be like, all right, well, I want to get bigger again, and we rerun the fun on all of that stuff. And actually, what you said there about being in a position that you're happy, I think that's the goal. I'm not saying that because we feel like we're happy with where we're at now that we will just stay there, but like being in a position with you're happy with how big you are, how strong you are, and how lean you are is the ultimate goal. Like that's where we want to be. Not to say that we'll just sack it off and just maintain that. And to your point of the times where you just don't want to do it, I think being able to be consistent with that through those times is the most challenging piece. Like on the days, the days, weeks, months that work's busy and it takes a priority or family life or whatever it might be. I said this quite openly a couple of times, not last year, the year before. Like I had such a huge focus on growing the business and We Hack Health and everything that we were doing that I just neglected myself and the progress that I made. And I would imagine that I didn't make much progress across the year, but I still stay consistent of getting at least 3 lifts in across the week, doing maybe some cardio at some point. I still ate well because that's how I eat now because I've done it for so long. So I potentially didn't push forward in terms of the progress that I made that year, but I still maintained the habit so that when it came to the start of last year and I recognized that and I was like, okay, right, I need to push things a little bit further. I wasn't like trying to reinstall the whole program like from scratch. It was like, right, okay, I just need to refine a couple of things and not eat this way and make sure that I prioritize my lifts and other bits and pieces. And it was quite easy to get back into it. And I think having an understanding of if you zoom right out at the time that you're going to be doing it, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of you lift, not everybody can see, man, of you lifting, like there are going to be times where you can push it in terms of maybe life's not as busy or your mind's just in a little bit more. And there's times that you're going to have to pull back on what you're doing. And this is what I deal with clients on a regular basis. It's like they come in and, for the first 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, they're like, oh my God, like I'm making so much progress, like it's good. And then the shit hits the fan because there's some crazy thing at work and they need to fucking stay up all night doing the stuff. And I'm like, right, well, these are the habits that I want you to maintain, because whenever the time comes back to push the things a little bit forward, I want to make sure that you're still in the habit of doing the things. And it's just a refinement thing more than anything else. So being able to stay consistent, I would say this: discipline's the thing that you need to do at the start to get yourself into the habits. Like you're not going to want to do it. It's going to suck. You're going to not like the gym. You're going to not like the foods you eat. You're going to miss certain things, feel like you're missing out. But when you establish the habits and behaviors, that's whenever you need consistency. You need consistency to stay on those things whenever life becomes a bit of a shit show. You have the discipline to do the stuff and you've proved that you've been able to do it. But keeping it consistent and sort of weathering the storm of whatever's going on in your life is where it becomes a real challenge. And know that right now, the stuff that you do may not pay off immediately and you may not see the progress that you want, but maintaining that habit and behavior, future you will thank you whenever it's time to push again and it's time to sort of see those results once again.
I also think one thing that, was instrumental for you, as it is for me, is not just ourselves in the discipline, but the community that we surround ourselves with. And, what gets me excited and what keeps me motivated is like response back from like validation from folks of, hey, I'm doing a great job, or I'm an inspiration, or, you were able to change me for the better because of the things that you do. And And that, to me, the community aspect of surrounding yourself with positive people, and that's, DDP's MO too. I was actually in the car with him talking about it, and we got into this discussion about, how he doesn't have time for negative people in his life, and he just cuts it out. He doesn't have time for it. And it's the same thing for me. It's like my life philosophy right there is, if somebody is super negative and is draining me down, I don't spend the time on them, because it drains me, depletes my battery as well. But folks that are motivating, people that are, happy to see my progress, or I'm happy to see their progress, I give them kudos. I'm like, dude, that was an epic lift. I got a text yesterday, from somebody saying, dude, congratulations on the six plates. I'm at 4. I'm looking to move up. I'm like, dude, you got this. Like, it's just that the validation back and forth, right? That I think is really important. And I'll share with you a message I got yesterday from somebody on Facebook. I've never talked to this person, publicly before, but he said, "Hi, Dave, how are you? I wasn't kidding when I said you are my inspiration. So cyber made me overweight, laughing, and now have type 2 diabetes. So it was a wake up call. I started doing intermittent fasting and keto, and after a month, I lost 15 pounds and I feel lighter. I hope in the future I see my abs again. Keep at it, Dave. You continue to inspire me, and I know others as well. If you're ever in Atlanta, protein shake on me." And that was just a random shout out from somebody, but it made my day too. Like, it's like, hey, because, we're doing this thing with Hacking Your Health, because I'm sharing my progress, my struggles, my things that I learn, throughout this whole thing, which I feel like I'm learning something new every day. It's motivating other people, which then thus motivates me. And if you look at over probably the past 3 months, I probably haven't posted many videos of me lifting or me doing everything, because again, I was going kind of through the cycles, but like now I'm motivated to, post pictures and have fun with it and do stupid things and, get goofy with it again. And, it's that continual motivation from others, that energy from others that is very, motivating to that discipline, to that consistency and everything else that we're doing there. So I think, you might go through these cycles, but if you have a great support system, they may help you through those troubling times that you're having. Or if you've stopped and need to start back up again, you're able to go and do it again with that support system. I think that's super, super important, is that community aspect.
For sure. And I think that for people who are listening and maybe sitting on the sort of in the shadows and like just like absorbing the information and seeing all the stuff on Twitter, like I would push you to share your successes. It doesn't need to be specific in terms of like before and after photos or lifts or whatever, but just like share that you're on the journey. Because if you think about, even if you think about when you started posting about it and the impact that had on potentially hundreds of or thousands of people along the way, and the impact that those people had on the people around them, like it's not a number that you'll ever be able to work out or quantify. Like even if I think about Thomas and Jen specifically, like they came to me maybe just over 2 years ago, and now we're in a position that both of them are coaching, and Jen's texting me about the clients that she's working with and the progress that they're making, and it's fun for me to see her see what actually happens whenever you're a coach and you have that impact on someone's life. And it just came from the fact of her doing the stuff for her and her posting about her doing the stuff. Not like oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's just like, this is where I have come from, this is what I have done, and this is where I am at now. And just showing that on a day-to-day basis. And I remember actually specifically, you remember Louise, that was one of the OG clients.
Oh, yeah.
I remember having a conversation with her specifically, and I can't remember how it came about, but she basically said that the reason that she picked me to coach her was that I was the opposite of her in terms of the consistency that I was doing and the nutrition and whatever else. And that was just a case of me like showing on Instagram my training or showing on Instagram my nutrition. So yes, okay, well, I have that sort of coaching hat on. Like people are watching in terms of the progress that you're making. And I'll shout out Jeff one more time. From the program, and him he is probably the most consistent posting with the We Hack Health hashtag. A couple of people, whenever I was chatting to them about moving from the program into Endgame, they were like, I need to be more like Jeff. And that's just like showing up every single day and posting his workouts and posting the hashtag and sort of posting his progress. So you never know who's watching. You never know like when someone needs to see that message, or when someone needs to have that just moment of like, fuck it, right, I've seen this person post fucking 700 times, it's time for me to take action. And the impact that will have on them, and then potentially the impact that will have on the people around them, their family, and the quality of life of everybody around them. Like it's absolutely endless in terms of the impact that it could have.
Yeah. And I think when I look at my, like, I reflect back on some of the key changes for me that was I would say catalysts for where I'm at today. Obviously, finding Ben Canning was the number one catalyst. You reached out to me. No, I reached out to you. And
we reached out to each other.
We reached out to each other. The cosmos sent a signal, and all the stars aligned. And I finally, but I always go back and I reflect on that, because I was looking at what's there's like a piece of technology that you breathe into, and it tells you whether or not you're fasting or not. I can't remember the name of it. It was like Zoom or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, and that had popped into my feeds, and it's like, hey, you want to lose weight? We have this whole training program online where you just breathe into this thing, and it tells you whether or not you're in a ketosis state, or you need to eat food or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe that's what I need to do to lose weight. And then I'm like, well, I've tried all these things before. I've tried all these technologies. I've tried all of these fads, whether it's keto or whatever. I'm not saying they're fads. Like, if those things fit with your lifestyle, they're fantastic as a tool. But I was like, but I really want to find something different. I want to find a community. I want to find somebody that can understand me personally. And I almost needed like a concierge doctor for working out and mentality, mindset, and everything else, right? And for me, I look back at the mindset aspect, and I really wasn't in the right mindset to be successful, because I had tried P90X and Sean T's Insanity, and I had gotten some gym equipment, and I was lifting, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, or hypertrophy, or rep ranges, or anything like that, or progressive overload, or creatine, or protein. I thought, hey, if I take creatine and protein, I'm going to be good. I'm going to gain some weight here, and we're going to be amazing, right? I get the physique I wanted to. And if I just eat salads every day, which I was miserable with, let me tell you this, I would get to the desired results. And finding a community and finding somebody that understood me and my challenges, and really, but I think the knowledge aspect for me, like we've talked about this before, but when I go all in on something, I go all in on something. But like for me, this was my last ditch effort on going all in on something when it came to my health and my fitness, because I had tried so many things before. So if this had failed me, I would have. If you had failed me, let me just put this way. I would be probably very unhealthy, probably drinking quite often, not from like an alcoholic state perspective, but just like, drinking more often than I probably should, and, eating more food than I should, and being obese again, and, having health issues. And
that's how it is, like just accepting the way it is, because that's the way that it's always
accepting the way it is. And there's no way I'd be, getting a 25 win streak at Cemetery Wins in Airsoft,
or running on a treadmill at all.
Running on a treadmill, breaking treadmills. And, and this is funny because, like when I go to Orange Theory, I'm definitely like by far the strongest person there. And I'm probably one of the oldest people there. Right. And today, the workout routine was you had to take the TRX bands and you had to do chest presses with them, right? So the banded things in your chest press, which is a great exercise, but it's not enough weight for me. I would have to do like 50 reps to get to the point to where I hit failure on that. So I go and I grab the 80s, which is the max weight that they have there. And I'm just repping out 80s. And then the instructor comes to me. She's like, just some measly 80s, huh? And I'm like, yep. It's lightweight, baby. And I didn't say lightweight, baby, because Aaron would have got mad at me. But I was like, I just said it's lightweight. And so, and I'm just repping out 80s, cranking them out, and doing deadlifts with the 80s, because again, that's the max weight you could do there. So there was a combination of back, chest, and legs. And so like I'm doing, this circuit routine, and I never would have thought that I would have been one of the strongest people there, or at the gym, or what I'm doing. And there's always stronger people. There's always, and everybody's in different positions. I'm not saying like I need to be the strongest person, but I'm proud of that because of how much effort and work and consistency and discipline and mindset that had to go into getting to the specific spot. And I know this isn't the end of me. I was actually talking to Dom yesterday, and Dom's much stronger than I am. I hate to admit that, but He is much stronger than I am. He's probably at like a 685 deadlift.
He does like 2 reps and then sits
He
about
does.
15 minutes.
He
And
does.
then
He's all about the
more
powerlifting.
2 reps.
But I want to say, but he gave me a compliment. So Dom's, probably 28, something like that, 27, 28 years old. I don't know his exact age, but he's in his 20s, right? So he's in great, condition as far as age wise. And, he said to me, I'm like, Dom, I feel like if I were to like really focus and do it, I feel like I could beat you. And he's like, Dave, he's like, if you just focused on powerlifting for like 6 months, I absolutely think you could beat me. And I was like, that's cool. Thanks, man. Like, I appreciate that. It probably wouldn't happen, but I do appreciate that. Like, but he's hitting he's at the 1,600 pound club. I'm at the 1,400 pound club. And so, but 200 pounds really isn't that much big of a difference. Like I think I could get there if I really train that way, if that's what I wanted to do, right? But again, I digress in that. But I'm going back to the whole circle of life here piece. The kickstarting it and doing it and going all in. And I want to emphasize, when I say going all in, it wasn't I had to work out 7 days a week and completely murder myself. It was inching my way in, but going all in on learning how to do it the most effective way that I could sustain for the rest of my life. And I think, the big thing that we have to focus on mindset is that you're not going to learn, like my son Mason, he's really interested in picking up Python programming. And, I sat down after his great conversation in the car, and this is one thing I will say too. This is a teary-eyed moment for me that happened yesterday. So I was driving back from Airsoft, and I was listening to some 90s music. It was fairly quiet in the car. I was tired as hell. I'm driving back, sitting there cruising, getting home. It's about a 20-minute drive from Airsoft. And Mason comes out and says, Dad, I don't know if I tell you this enough, but I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud that you're my dad. And I was like, whoa, dude. Like, first of all, where'd that come from? And
like, not
yeah, I was like, and I started getting a little teary-eyed. I'm like, I didn't know how to respond to it. But then I also wanted to take a moment to take a step back and like look at that moment and say, this is a great moment. Like, I put everything into my family. I put everything into my kids. I put everything into myself. I put everything in my businesses. And they have, my kid come up to me and be like, I'm so proud of you. And then he says, like, it's like, when someone comes to me and says, like, what does my dad do? Or what does your dad do? Well, he deadlifts 600 pounds. He's 42. He owns multiple large cybersecurity companies. He's on the news all the time. He's best friends with DDP. Like, he's like, there's no other dad that's like you. You realize that? He's like, there's no other dad that's like you. And I was like, appreciate that, buddy. But anyways, so he now Mason, then we start, like having a good conversation. And he's like, Dad, I really want to pick up Python programming. So we spent the next 15 minutes just basically talking about Python programming and giving him an understanding of like, hey, it's like a book. This is how modules work. This is how variables work and things like that. And he sent me a text message today and he's like, hey, I got my first application working. He's at school, probably supposed to be doing work, but he's now all obsessed with programming. He's just like me, DNA structure wise. And he's like, I just wrote my first application. He's like, how do I change a cursor and do this? I'm like, all right, let's talk about modules. Here's what you have to do. You have to install this module, do this, da, da, da. He's like, yeah, I got it working, da, da, da. So, but he's like, hey, I think I'm starting to get what programming is. And I just have to understand the syntax and I have to understand the language. And after that, I'm good. And then if I need help, I could just go figure it out on this. I'm like, that's exactly right. But the same thing happens in our fitness journey too. It's like you start off with not knowing how to do a hello world. And you do your first hello world and you build on that knowledge. And then now you're writing a small application that maybe automates something. Then you're building an application that does something different. Maybe you're building it to build your pen testing tools, your hacking tools. So it's a gradual progression on how you're learning to control your appetite, your calories, changing your protein goals, getting to lifting regiments and feeling those muscle movements and getting that mind muscle body connection. Those things take a substantial amount of time to learn. You're not going to learn them overnight, but you will learn them if you're doing it the right way. And so, having that mindset of I'm starting off from scratch. And I had a friend, last thing I'll do, and I'll pass it back over to you. I had a friend, come to me. He's like, hey, can I lift at your gym? He's like, I don't want to go to a gym and be all embarrassed and not know what I'm doing. Sound familiar, by the way?
Don't worry, we're going to do the adductor machine. I'm going to bring a film crew with me.
A whole film crew for you, buddy. I'm like, son of a bitch. But I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's get together. I'm like, first of all, just so you know, people at the gym all start different levels. No one's going to be making fun of you or thinking that you're different. Like, that's just not the way it goes. And second, if they do, F them. Who cares? Like, you're trying to improve yourself. Who cares? But second, yeah, why don't we come over to my house and I'll teach you some regimens that we can work on and we can build from there until you're comfortable and all that good stuff. So, everybody starts from a different spot, but having that mindset is one of the most keys, and then surrounding yourself with positive people is key.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. And I think that the thing about it is, I specifically remember having this conversation with Martin, the guy that used to take the photos for me. And we were talking about like the room and the environment that you're in. And he was like, well, why don't you just create your own? And then that's how We Hack Health was born. And that's why we started the podcast. So I agree. And I think the people you surround yourself with and environment, I did a big piece on this recently. Check us out on YouTube. It's on there in terms of like unfucking your productivity, and environment falls into that massively. But I think the environment, the people you surround yourself with is key. And I feel grateful and privileged to have the people that I have around me in terms of the people that I get to work with, because on the days that I'm not
me number one, but everybody else number two, but it's fine. I just want to make sure I throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah. But on the days that I'm maybe not feeling it, I can just jump into the Discord and see everybody killing it, and then have that sort of sense of responsibility, like, well, fuck, if everybody else is doing it, I have to do it. But just being able to be, surrounded by people who are just out to better themselves and better than everybody that is around them, and understanding that some days you're going to go in and people are going to have a shit day and it's not going to be 100% in, and just being able to navigate that together. That's where the coaching side really comes in. But yeah, I agree. Mindset is key. It's foundational in terms of progress, and it's something that continues to need work. Like, I talk about this all the time. It's not just a case of, okay, right, I've unfucked my mindset, I'm good to go now, or I'm in the right mindset. Like, it's something that will adapt and change over time based on everything that's going on in your life and other bits and pieces. And it's something that continually needs work, and actually probably something that needs as much work as you do whenever you're in the gym, because there's a lot of stuff to sort of rewire essentially whenever it comes to your thought processes on things. So a big piece of the puzzle.
Yep. Well, that was it for this week's podcast. We got pretty deep into mindset, breaking treadmills, and everything else that comes along with it. But listen, if you have the right mindset, you yourself can break treadmills and rowers anytime you want to. So just remember that
you can break 5 pieces of equipment in your local Orange Theory. You just need to stick with it long enough.
Just stick with it long enough. When you're breaking equipment, you've hit a different level. So no, I appreciate everybody tuning in for this week's podcast. We'll be definitely hitting you up next week. I think next week we'll give a little bit of teaser, but I think we're looking at doing a podcast specifically on the benefits of creatine, right?
We're going to do a full podcast on creatine because we promised to do this a long time ago, and some people remind me of this and often. So I'm glad that you've made it public now on the internet. So we have to do it next week, a full podcast on creatine.
And I will give you some teasers on next week. There's many more benefits in muscle building, and we're going to get down into the nitty gritties of why creatine doesn't impact your kidney, why it's beneficial for your entire body, not just your biceps, and what you should be looking at from a loading protocol perspective, and why creatine is one of our staple supplements that we use consistently all the time. I take 500 grams of, I'm just kidding. I take 10 grams of protein, 10 grams of creatine a day. And we'll talk a bit about dosages and why it's important. So catch us the next week, same time, same place, and appreciate all of y'all. And remember, keep that mindset going. If you're finding yourself in a slump, just remember, it's all in your mind. It's all in that, as DDP would say, I think he said it's the 6-inch space between your ears.
Between your ears is what he said. 6 inches of real estate.
Yeah. 6 inches of real estate. That's right. Between your ears. Nice job. You remember that. So I literally just saw him 3 days ago, and you remember this. But anyways,
that was last February in Phoenix. I remember him doing that. Luckily, I've been taking my creatine for the good cognitive benefits, and I could pull that from my memory. Right.
Whoa! Thanks. Don't give away everything for next week's podcast. Come on. I wasn't saying it. I wasn't saying the brain, but it's part of it. So,
right. Thanks for listening. Check us out on We Hack Health on all social media platforms, and I'll catch you next week.
Thanks all.